John, nuclear. We've seen now with Germany, the president or vice chancellor or whatever saying they want to move away from nuclear totally, and now a turnaround saying, oh no, wait, that's not possible. Is nuclear still viable? Obviously, a lot of creation, immediate solutions, but in the long term, and that's what everyone's going on about. And saying, no, don't do it. It's not a viable long-term solution.
Yeah, I think that there's a lot of reaction to the disaster that happened in Japan, and I think Germany's reaction was based on public outcry, saying that they're hugely dependent on nuclear. There are safety issues, but I think to be fair, that was a catastrophic, earthquake and a tsunami both hitting a facility. I think that any facility would have been challenged by that. I think you have to look at being pragmatic. I think that a lot of the traditional methods of generating energy, be they coal or peat as we have in Ireland, or maybe hydro, they all have their challenges and all have their impacts. So I think you have to have a balanced view. I don't think you could say you shouldn't use any coal as a fuel source, but if you've got a large abundance of it and it's easy to transport and it's cheap to process, you might have a different view. So it's difficult to come up with one solution. I think every country needs to sort of look at it themselves and see what works for them.
Because Ireland has not gone nuclear at all, and how did you manage not to do that?
No, we've never had a nuclear. I think we've had, I suppose, going back into the 70s, there was a strong anti-nuclear campaign led from the fact that the UK government, and UK is very close to us, were processing spent nuclear waste at a facility called Sellafield, and there has been some instances there. So I think people have been very nervous about it. But that being said, we as an island are connected to the UK, who are connected to mainland Europe, and there is nuclear generation, so by extrapolation a proportion of our power must come from that. But no, we've tended to move towards seeking renewables now as part of the solution, and we have some aggressive targets primarily around wind, but also wave and tidal technologies, so there's some leading companies in that area there.
Yeah, let's talk about the wind. We're seeing now, I'm reading about a lifespan of a wind turbine 5 to 10 years, so is it then still profitable and viable then to do it if it's only lasting 5 to 10 years?
Yeah, well, certainly on that timeline it would appear not to be. I think the problem has been, particularly on land wind farms, in Ireland certainly anyway, there's been a lot of restrictions from a planning point of view. They've had difficulties connecting to the grid, and they seem to be moving away now from land-based towards ocean-based, where you get much bigger turbines and much bigger returns. But again, yeah, they are mechanical devices, so there is the potential for them to fail. So it's difficult. I think when governments then set policy numbers saying X% must come from renewables, that generates a sort of a market demand in itself, but also in some cases there may be subsidies for wind. So for example, Ireland and the UK and others would give subsidies towards energy generated from renewables as opposed to fossil fuels, so that might make the return on investment picture slightly different from an investment perspective, but I think it's part of the mix.
Yeah. Other alternative energies that you're looking at? You mentioned hydro.
Yeah, wave and tidal. Yeah, we've a couple of Irish companies. One, Open Hydro, we want to note. They're looking at alternative technologies to try and come up with generation wind from the natural movement of the sea, and we as an island are surrounded by it. I would have thought it will have great application for other countries and indeed continents. Indeed, perhaps it's an opportunity for South Africa to look at that as well. So I think there's a lot of new technology out there. People are always, I suppose, concerned about how robust that's going to be, and what are the implications if it doesn't work. So I think you need a mix. Unfortunately, we're still going to need a mix of solutions. There's no one magic bullet.
Yeah.